Yes, just started the recording. My
Okay,
apologies.
yeah, I was like, it won't let me do it, so.
Yep, nope, just started.
All right, so we're gonna go ahead. Students log in, they're gonna see this come up where it's gonna give them their class name and MATHia. So if students are in 2 different classes, that is okay. They would see 2 classes listed here, and they just work on the class that's appropriate for where they need to go. When they launch into MATHia, they land on the MATHia homepage that gives them all the different module names. It gives them their progress for the session that they're working, along with their total and how much of the syllabus is completed. This avatar, this is what I wanted to show you to start off with. Students have the ability to turn on text-to-speech. It's at their discretion, so all they have to do is click text-to-speech. They can change it to a woman or to a man for it to be read in. They want to make sure that they're always leaving it in as English as the United States, because if they choose like one of these other languages here, it doesn't translate it into the language, it just reads it in English with that dialect. So it would be like if I choose German, it would be like a German person coming over here trying to speak English. So we want to make sure that we leave it with the United States English, either the man or the woman. They can change their rate at which it's read and the pitch. They need to click enable text-to-speech and then make sure they click save. So this is completely up to the students. They can turn it on and off when they want or when they need it. What I like about the text-to-speech is when they go into a problem, what they're going to see is icon bubbles, and they can choose exactly which part they want read to them. They don't have to have the whole thing read to them, so we've chunked it already. So they literally can just say, I only want this piece read. And when they do it, it highlights what's being read to them, and then it will read it to them with whatever rate and pitch they needed it read to them. So I wanted to make sure I showed you that so that you can see students have that access to turn on text-to-speech. We do work with Google Translate. With Chromebooks or with the Chrome browser, they will need to load the Google Translate extension if they need that. So again, that's going to be there for all the students whenever they need it. And then up at the top, they have all of their different helps that they can do. They can go back to the home page. They can go to the glossary. Again, the glossary is in the One Touch from English to Spanish. They don't have to know the complete, like how to spell the complete word. They can start to type it in. Let's see if I can spell it. And I can just click on the word that I want. What's going to come up is the definition and an example, and they can instantly change it to Spanish. So again, a lot of support there for the students for independent learning. I'm going to go ahead and go into the MATHia as a student doing a different workspace really quick. Okay. So I'm going to go back into the teacher's toolkit. You guys as teachers can do this, and as for virtual learning, this might be really helpful for you, because if students are getting stuck on a particular workspace, you can actually pull it up and demo it for the students while they watch you before you release them to do it. So the 9 grid up here on the top right, I'm going to click on it and go to Content Browser. From the content browser, I'm going to have a list of courses that I've selected that will have been selected from my preferences when you first log in the first time. I'm going to go ahead and look at Middle School Math Course 3. And we'll go to Developing Functional Foundation. So what happens when I click on the Middle School Math Course 3, it's going to bring up all the modules. There will always be 6 modules in every one of your classes. So when we clever integrate it, when you first get your classes, they are going to have the 6 modules. For this year, you guys are going to want to choose where you need to start based on where you are with mathematics right now. Okay, so then what you're going to see is the module. Then when I click on it, it opens up the units. And then when I click on the units, it opens up to the workspaces. So I'm going to go ahead and look at modeling with proportionality, so the workspace. Then I'm allowed to choose an exact problem. And then I can launch my workspace. All right, when students launch in, so this is the student view from what they see. If they are in a mastery level workspace, that means that we're adapting the number of problems that students need in order to show mastery at a 95%. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead, they can click begin the step-by-step. Some students will try to skip the step-by-step. I really encourage you to have them do it because it not only works with them and teaches them about the math, but it also teaches them how to input it into the software. So again, taking the number of errors and number of hints that students take while they're working through the problem so that they can master it with more success a little quicker. So what you'll notice with the step-by-step is that it always has a box that is there to help support them that gives them information on how to start working through the problem. It also underlines the question that the students are going to be working on, where they need to concentrate. So again, we need to make sure we push students to read the first part, that you maintain inventory for a local craft store. One of the store's most frequent customers is a lady named Miss Bestwick. You notice that typically 4 out of every 7 items on back order are for Mrs. Bestwick. So the first part asks if the total number of sticker labels on the back order is 28, how many of these items on back order are Mrs. Bestwick's? So again, it says enter the given value for the number of items on back order. So I can go ahead and type in 28 here. Click enter. So again, the students are going to get the instant feedback. Then for the next part, you're going to notice with the step-by-step, it's going to give them some information, but it also highlights all the important information throughout the problem. So here it says 4 out of every 7 items are on back order. So in order to see which ones are Mrs. Bestwick's, I can type 4/7 and it tells me it's 4/7 times the number on back order. So I can go ahead and type that in, times 28. Again, students don't have to actually do the calculation. They can input it straight into the cell and it's going to calculate for them. Now, for 6th grade teachers and some of the 7th grade teachers, when we're actually asking students to calculate and show us, can you multiply decimals or can you divide a fraction by a fraction, our cells will not automatically calculate. So if our cells aren't automatically calculating, that's a really good idea to think about, like, oh, I shouldn't give you a calculator. That's a standard and a skill that we're trying to make sure the students have mastered. But if it isn't, we don't want the math to hold the students back when we're just trying to see, do you understand the process? So we'll act as a calculator for them. And then, again, they can go ahead and work through it. After the students finish the step-by-step and they work through everything, they can go to the problem. You'll notice the new problem is going to look very similar to the problem that they just had for the step-by-step. They have lots of support up here at the top. They can always go back to the step-by-step at any moment. They can use a solver if they need it, and I'll show you what that looks like. They can always click a sample problem that gives them a sample problem, again, that's very similar to what they're working on right now, so they can see it top and bottom. Sometimes they're side by side, but they can bring up a sample problem. They also have the hints, and I'll demonstrate those in just a second. And then you as a teacher get to solve it. Students don't get the solve it button. That means that we're not expecting you to work through every problem if you don't want to. When you're in the content browser, you can just solve it. Up here at the top right corner, you'll see that there's circles. This is our skillometer, and this is allowing the students to recognize what skills we're watching every keystroke for to make sure students are entering it correctly. Again, and this is where, because we are watching keystrokes and we're making sure students are always working and doing the problems correctly, right? This is where we're adjusting the types of problems students are getting, or if they're struggling more on if they're given the nesting sites and they have to work backwards. Some students might get more of those that have more of the nesting site part blank and they're working backwards. And if students are struggling working forwards, then those students might get more of those types of problems. So we're really adjusting by where students are making their mistakes and making sure they understand it. So students have access to that. You as a teacher in Live Lab also have access to that. So again, you know exactly where to support your students. So I'm going to go ahead and go to question 1. But the beauty of the software is students can start where they're comfortable. So if you have those high-end students that are like, I already can type the expression after reading this, they're more than welcome to just type in the expression. So I'm just going to type it in and I'll show you what happens. So again, they can type it in and they can start off. And then if they're like, okay, and I know this one is going to be 1 out of every 8. So if I type in 1 out of every 8 nesting sites times t, again, that's okay. So again, those higher end students, if they know the expression right away and that's where their brain goes, they can start working on that. What I like about this is, again, we don't want to waste students' time if they know how to do it. So again, if he's looking at 64, it's that instant feedback, but you'll notice because I already typed in the expression, it's going to fill in the answer for me. But if I'm going to this one, I'll just type this one in really quick, 72. And then if I'm going to this one where it's like, okay, now I'm looking at this and let me see, he wants to know, he has a total of 4 abandoned. If I type 4 in the first part, it's going to recognize this is a common error and it just is telling me, hey, you put it in the wrong column. So again, redirecting students' thinking to make sure that they're doing it correctly. So I know I need to type 4 in here. But now if I'm not sure what I need to do in order to work backwards, I am more than able to bring up the solver, and the solver asks the students to enter the equation. So I know it's going to be 4 equals this because this is the outcome from that. So we're going to do 4 equals 1/8 times t, submit, and then what it's going to bring up is it actually is going to bring up all the different ways that I can solve this. So let me move this out of the way. Okay, so what you'll see is now it's asking the students to choose an operation or perform an action. They can either rewrite the expression using combining like terms, or they can use equation transformations, which I know with this one, I'm gonna need to multiply to or divide or multiply to both sides, sorry. So we're gonna multiply to both sides. What it's going to do is it's going to ask the students to type in what it is that they're multiplying to both sides. So again, making sure that we're always doing it correctly, but we're giving that support to the students that need to have some additional support because they can't do it in their head or they're not quite sure. So they can use the solver to help them solve it, or they can even just type it in. So if they know like that I need to do 8 times 4, they can just type in 8 times 4. And again, it's going to calculate it for them. So they can use the solver, they can type it in. And as you see, as I got things correct, all these circles, this kilometer is going to start filling in. I'm going to click I'm done, and then students are going to get a similar, oh, there's more work to do because I need to plot the points. For this one here, then they can go ahead and start plotting points. This one's great because it's just kind of the drag and drop. So if we're at 64 and 8, so they can just go up there, be in the kind of vicinity, drop it, and it's gonna, again, give them that back. If a student is really confused on, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do next, they can always take a hint. Again, the hint's gonna be very specific to where they are in the problem and even to how they're solving it. So they can just press the plot button. This one only has the 1 hint. I'm going to go ahead and click the solve it, finish this problem out, and then I'm going to do the other hints that students can do. What you'll notice is when the student finishes the problem, they're going to get another problem that looks similar, but their progress circles are more filled in. So this time I need to enter the unit. So the unit is going to be millimeters.
Jamie, can we get a question here real quick?
Yeah.
There's 2 questions. So Eric asks, when you type, how does it automatically know you are typing a fraction / ratio?
Okay, so we actually work with all the keyboard shortcuts. So if we're down here and we need to type in the fraction, then we, like if we want to type in 1/3, we can do 1, and then the slash button that's under the question mark will automatically take it to a fraction. Or they can also use the drop down here and they can go to a fraction there. But we work with all the keyboard shortcuts, which is a little bit easier than using the expression editor. Okay.
Okay, and then
is there another question?
Yeah, so Cindy Flores, I'm going to unmute her. She had a question. She asked about seeing all the modules, and I don't know if she said 3 modules, so I don't know if she was talking about workspaces or what. So I'm going to let if it will unmute Cindy. Are you unmuted or no, Cindy?
Now I am.
Oh,
Okay.
good, perfect.
Okay, so my question was, I can see from your teacher toolkit page that you had module 3, 1, 2, and 3, which I'm assuming is 6th, 7th, and 8th grade.
No, so every course, whether it be 6th, 7th, or 8th grade, every course actually has 6 modules to it.
Oh, okay, so the actual grade is called course. Like
So
course.
yeah, so you have
Okay.
course 1, course 2, or course 3, right? And then within each one, there's 6 modules.
Okay, that's where I was a little confused.
Okay, yep, no, and we'll talk about that in just a second.
Okay.
So again, as a student, if I'm not sure what I need to do for my next question, and this is going to be weeks, if I'm not sure what I need to type here, they can always take a hint. We usually have 3 levels to our hint. The first level will kind of tell the students to read the problem again and see if that helps. The next level, because there's usually 3, usually gives them a little bit more information, and again, highlights some more information. And then the third one gives them the answer. This particular one just gave me the answer after the one time. Again, it's okay. They can't hint themselves out of work. The more they take hints to get through them, the more problems they are going to get, because we are recognizing that they do not know how to do it. As a teacher in the reports, you are also going to be able to see how many hints and how many errors the students are taking to try to redirect them, because they're going to get more problems if they are making a lot of errors, and they're going to get more problems if they take a lot of hints. So again, we kind of like a mixture of it and how to use the hints appropriately. So that's kind of what it looks like from the student side. With the student side, also, I'll go in because you were asking about the modules, right? So let me just go back here. So how the software works, and again, we're going to work on kind of moving some things around if we need to. So when you click on your class details page, these are all the modules that you will have in your classes. Let me go back here. I'm going to create a class really quick. Sorry. None of my classes have anything that I want in them. You guys are not going to need to do this because your classes will already be created for you. Okay, just do this. We'll go Arizona. So we'll already have the right standards and everything loaded for you guys. This is where I'm like choosing my constructed course. These are what we're already selecting and putting in for you guys. Maybe my internet is really slow. Continue. Okay, I'm just going to add students really quick. Add. Okay. So again, what's going to happen is when we're looking at our class, we have in our class dashboard, we're going to have all of our students and we're going to have all the modules. There's always 6 modules. When students finish this pre-launch protocol, the next module will automatically unlock for them. So again, this is where, so this follows our textbooks for next year when you're using that blended model. But for this year, you might want to look to see, oh, well, I'm working on applying power. So I'm working on exponents in 8th grade. So I need to move this one forward. Because what happens is we have it on auto progression. So when students finish the one module, the next one automatically unlocks. So, and within each module, there are units and there are workspaces, but they all work in sequential order. So when a student finishes a workspace, the next workspace will automatically unlock for them. So you as a teacher are not having to worry about unlocking or locking modules. It will automatically do that for you. So when you are in your class, again, this is for 8th grade, this is going to be the order that they will be loaded into your system right now. So what you're going to need to do is need to rearrange it so that the next module that opens after they do the pre-launch protocol will be the module you want them to work on. So to do this, up here when you're in your class details, there's different tabs. So there's the class details, there's the overview, there's the roster where you can see all your students, and then there's the MATHia sequence. We're going to click on the MATHia sequence. It's going to bring up all of your modules that are loaded into your class. We're going to click Edit. From here, you're going to be able to rearrange those modules. So if I'm in 8th grade and I'm having my students working on Pythagorean theorem and then applying powers, I want to move these two modules up behind the pre-launch protocol. So always make sure that pre-launch protocol is #1, and then whatever modules you need next. Then you can click Save, and it's going to, when I go back to my class details page, it will now have those in the correct order that I need students to work on. I would go ahead and just leave everything because, again, if students finish these, and then they're like, oh, I can keep working. Again, now they can fill in some concepts from the beginning of the year. So I have some schools that are like, well, they kind of struggle with linear equations, so I'm going to put that next after what they're learning new, so that if they do get that far, they can actually keep going and get a little bit more support with that. So again, that's kind of where you can work and customize that for students. So again, rearranging, and then you can actually, and again, if some students are struggling with linear equations, you can left click and just unlock that module for them after they finish what you want them to do. And you can unlock functional foundations for different students. So again, you can really be selective on which students are going to be working on other concepts once they finish the new concepts you want them to work on. Okay, in the MATHia sequence, if you want to see what is in each one, when you're in here, you can click on the little arrows. So here is the workspace or the module, expanding number systems. And when I click on it, it opens up the units. And then when I click on the units, it opens up the workspaces that the students will be working on. So again, the first thing when this module unlocks, they'll work on rational and irrational unit. They'll first start with introduction to irrational numbers. When they finish this workspace, the next one would automatically unlock for them. And then the next workspace, and then the next unit would. So again, as a teacher, you're not having to really unlock or lock anything. And then you can actually see what is in each module by looking at the MATHia sequence. Okay. Are there any questions so far?
I've been addressing the questions in the chat, so I think we're good. If anybody, if I haven't addressed someone's question, like if I missed it, let me know. Oh, I just saw one from Daniel, I didn't see. He asked a question, if we have new student come into the class midway through the year, how will they be added and how long will it take for them to get in? So, oh, okay, then someone answered that a little below here. Yeah, so, so Clever adds that every night, Daniel, just so you know. And then they can just jump right in and start using MATHia.
Yeah. And as a teacher for next year, that'll be your choice. Is like, I kind of always used, if a student was coming into me and they had an F from their previous school, then I was like, it's okay if they start from the beginning, because at least I'm filling in some gaps with the software. But if a student came into me and they had an A from before, then I can skip them and move them right to where we are in the class. So again, you have some flexibility on when a new student comes in, what do you want, how do you want the content to progress for them? Okay.
And
But
then
I
a couple,
oh, go ahead.
sorry, Jamie, go ahead. No,
No,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
I was just gonna say there's a couple more comments I wanted to get to, but
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so Juanita asked, when can we explore a site? Almost for everyone, this is almost ready. We are setting it up in Clever right now, so we're really close. And Jamie, are we doing full access or just at home stuff? I forget.
We're doing I told them to give them full access and push everything full access to them.
Okay, so go gentle, teachers, for the at-home stuff for the remainder of the year. Consult with Jamie and I on that. Definitely don't try to dump everything on the students, but you have access to everything in a minute here once Clever's set up. And then Charla asked the questions, okay, so I do not have to assign specific tasks. They each work at their own pace. The answer is yes, but Jamie, I'll let you kind of elaborate on learning at your own pace a little bit.
Yes, so I think right now, and even during the school year, I think it's really good because we're using this as a teaching tool right now from the virtual classroom. And guess what, guys? Everything is done for you and your Clever access is ready. Yes.
I just saw that message come in too. I was like, is that for us?
That is for you guys. So everything for you guys are done. So when we get off of this, you should be able to go in through Clever, click Carnegie, and everything that we just did will be there. Yay, and all your classes should be loaded. So hopefully everything works out. If there is issues, please make sure you guys reach out and we'll be able to support you.
And Dr. Portillo and Sabrina just said you have a lot of homework this weekend.
So some things that I would tell you guys is, again, when you rearrange your MATHia sequence, if you want students, I mean, right now we're using it as a teaching tool to help our students learn concepts. What I love about it is, at least if they're at home, they're now practicing it 100% correctly. And again, they can enter it where they're comfortable. So what I always work with teachers on is go to the MATHia sequence and expand the module that you want the students to work on. And then, so I'm just going to look at this one with rational and irrational and Pythagorean theorem. What I can do now is I can quickly highlight it. So I have the module name, the 2 units, and all the workspaces, and I can copy that. And then you can go into Word or to Google Sheets. So if you guys are using Google Classroom, you can go into Word or Google Sheets. Let's see, let me go here, Google Docs. And you can actually create a new one, and we'll do a Google Docs, or you could do it in a Sheets. You can paste that. And now what you have is a really quick way to set goals for your students and to tell them, by the end of this week, I would like you guys here. So this is going to be due for 22 or whatever. So again, that gives you a lot of where you guys can set the goals for students, and then they can check off the workspaces that they've completed and make sure. But I mean, I would always encourage students, if you finish more than this, that's okay, keep going. So again, because sometimes some of our workspaces, some students will get through with 3 questions, and another student, that same workspace might take them 12 questions. So again, we're even all determining how many questions students get to make sure that they do have that 95% mastery. But this is a really easy way. Again, if you're using Google Classroom, you can just share it out, and students can keep track of their data, and then you can also see data and how well they're doing. And again, we have other free webinars where we talk about all of the reports. I think right now it's like, let's just get the students on Monday, and then we can come back in on next week. And I think the reports one that you guys would probably want, we have two different ones. We have one that's at really early Arizona time. I think it's at 6 a.m. Arizona time, or we have another one that's at 10 a.m. Arizona time for reports, and we can send that link to you guys. Any other questions? We have about 5 more minutes, 4 or 5 more minutes.
Yeah.
Any other questions that you guys have?
Yeah, so I'm gonna, there have been a few questions throughout about this. Renuka just asked a question, like, it seems abstract right now, obviously, because no one has their hands on it. But yes, you're gonna have multiple trainings on this, so you won't, it's not gonna be something where, you know, this is part of your adoption for next year, your 6 through 8 adoption next year. So if you're a 6 through 8 teacher, you will get a lot of training going on, moving over the summer and into next year, and in classroom support and all sorts of things that Sabrina and I and Dr. Portillo have worked out, so that there's plenty of PD. And also, there are lots of resources right now, and I'll make sure that I send that to Sabrina and she can send it out to the group. But really, the intent of MATHia right now is so your students have this resource through the end of this year. And then, of course, we're going to do more training on the textbook and everything going into next year, so that you're completely comfortable with this. But yes, there are online webinars you can go to, kind of like this one, where someone will be live, and maybe Jamie training and some of those. And then there's some other ones where we have a set of 4, so you can get familiar with the resources and understand how to use MATHia. There are student and parent guides as well. And I'll send all these links to make sure that Sabrina is sharing this with the group, and then you guys have access to everything. Let me see. Oh, and then someone asked a question about logging in. Now that Clever's ready to go, we ask that you always log in via Clever. Don't log in via some third-party website or anything like that. I mean, it would be our website, but just log in directly via Clever.
Right.
That's the way that everyone needs to log in.
So your students will log in through Clever, and you guys will log in through your Clever. And when you go into your Clever, usually what happens, and I don't have Clever, sorry, I wish I could show you. But when you go into your Clever, there's all the different icons for the programs that are Clever integrated, and you're going to click on the Carnegie Learning, the CL icon. So it'll look like this top little CL. I'll go back to the home page. It should look, it's not on there, but it should be a big CL. And you click on that, and it instantly takes you into this page as a teacher. And then everything software, just remember the purple button, the teacher toolkit, will give you everything software where you can view your classes and rearrange all of your orders. Okay, any other questions?
Jamie, I'm going to unmute everyone just real fast,
Okay,
and that way,
yeah.
if there's questions, we don't have to.
Right, that makes it so much easier.
Okay, any questions out there? Everyone, I hit unmute, but it looks like people are still muted. Well, I can hear people. All right. No other questions, Sabrina? Any other comments or questions that you have?
So I did receive some questions regarding the packets and how that works together with MATHia. So that's something that we can discuss during our 10:15 session today. We'll get more into detail with that, because I'm actually going to be getting your input as to what you would like into the packets for the last 4 weeks of the school year.
Okay.
Oh, we got a comment that we love your student names over there, Jamie.
Which one?
And Donald Duck and Charlie Brown and Bart and
Yeah, you know. That way I wasn't repeating. I can't, because I keep using the same names. And so now that I just use like characters, it's easier. I'm like, what cartoon characters can we come up with? Awesome. All right. Well, if there are no more questions, you guys, please reach out.
One.
Oh, yes.
Hi. This year for math, we use math resources for support for struggling students like Khan Academy.
Yes.
Does MATHia have a similar feature in and of itself, or do you recommend that we use something like a Khan Academy in conjunction with it?
We actually go down to second grade math in our software. So we have response to intervention that we work with, that we can actually create custom modules for students to fill in some of those gaps for intervention. I personally like the software better than Khan Academy or than some of the others, because all of those were students watching a video, and a lot of times when our students are in intervention, they need more interaction than watching a video, and they're still answer based. So what happens is it waits for the student to type in an answer, and then it tells them they're incorrect. So those students, again, there are struggling ones anyways, and now they just practice the problem incorrectly, which now takes a lot longer to uncorrect that. So, and we can go through, like I can send things on how to customize modules if we need to do that for intervention, but we can even work with Sabrina and any of the intervention teachers or any of that stuff where we can actually create custom pathways to get pushed out to those classes through Clever.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, if there's any questions, you guys, that come up as you're starting to.
Question on the chat.
Oh, what's? I can't see the chat. It doesn't come up.
Me, I have a quick question. For the MATHia, if students start interacting with it, is it smart enough to know that what the student's working on is too hard and will automatically assign something different?
No, so we do not adapt that way. So what we do is, again, our goal and what we really need in the intention is students are always working at grade level. But where we do adapt is we see where those gaps are. So if a student is struggling with subtracting to both sides on solving an equation because they're having a hard time with integers, we actually give them more of those problems, but we also, with our hints and all of that, fill in some of those gaps. So we're adjusting even where they're struggling. We just don't adapt down, because what happens with a lot of adaptive software that adapts down, students live in the world of below grade level and they never come back up. And that's a huge issue with it. And so we try to always keep students at grade level, but then adjust the problems based on where they're struggling. And you as a teacher can actually see exactly where they're struggling.
So like, for the rest of the school year, this probably should only be used for those students that were at or above grade level in math before we were quarantined.
Not necessarily. I've had a lot of my SPED, my ELA, I mean, I've had a lot of my SPED students that are successful with it. But again, you're going to start with where they're at, but we have so much built-in support there that students that we think are like, ooh, they can't do that, they actually are pretty successful with it.
Okay.
Okay.
And then we have a question from Portia. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. We have students that transfer from school to school within the district. Will their account and progress follow them from school?
Yes, everything will follow them for next year.
Or if they move schools within the district, yes.
Everything.
Outside the district,
I mean, we've even done it where I knew I had a student that was moving to a school from Arizona to South Carolina that used Carnegie, and I was able to transfer all of their work from my school to South Carolina. So that with Clever, we're going to transfer everything between schools and everything.
Awesome. I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah. I mean, it was really cool because I was like, oh, you guys use Carnegie? And I'm like, you're doing the algebra? And they're like, yep. And I was like, perfect. I'm just going to transfer their data. And they're like, thanks. So it was awesome.
Thank you so much, Jamie.
All right, thank you.
Jump
All
on.
right.
for
Yeah,
my-
and Sabrina, just keep collecting questions and people can reach out. I want to make sure everyone knows they're not standing on an island here.
Exactly.
It's our most important
Absolutely.
thing.
The
All right.
session, you did record the session, so if I could get the chat, I can go through and start compiling some FAQs.
Mhm.
And we'll also have a debrief session with 6th through 8 teachers at 10:15 today. So we'll gather some more there. Thank you very much.
Perfect. All
Thank you.
right. Thank you. Okay,
Yes.
bye-bye.
Yep. See you.